Okay.
controversial as well as very famous. This is something no one knows, right? I'm just revealing to you at this moment.
Okay.
And that gave me a wonderful exposure in organizing events, going and meeting people, traveling around the country.
That's a great and very dramatic start. I must say
Y-
that very dramatic
Yes,
start to your career. You
I
figured
figured
out
out.
at that young age that maybe that's not my cup of tea. Then there is one place where you mentioned that you did a master's in Buddhism.
Actually, you'll be, I'll give you another surprise to you. Probably the only Sri Lankan business person to have dual masters in these two
Okay.
religions. I have something to do much more than what others see. The kind of heart we have with the knowledge that we accumulate, we become such a blessing to entire organization and the people. For HR guys, the good news is there are things that AI cannot replace.
I mean, are you open if people are experimenting and they also fall? Hello and welcome to one more episode of our HR Footprints podcast series. And as you know, we are doing this series as an attempt to bring some of the achievers, some of the HR leaders, some of the entrepreneurs, talk to them, listen to them, draw some beautiful insights, very deep insights. Their life, their experiences teach us quite a bit. So hope you all will enjoy these conversations as much as I am enjoying talking to them. So for today's episode, I have a very special guest, a person who comes with almost 3 decades of rich experience. But more interestingly, that experience comes with so much of diversity. I think that is what is going to make this conversation so very interesting. So let me invite Mr. Derrick Perera. Hi, Derrick.
Hi,
Very
hi,
warm
Dr. Raj.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for accepting our invite and joining me on this show.
You're
We are
most
very
welcome.
curious to talk to you and learn from your experiences and insights. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And we are more keen to talk to you as a person, understand your rich experience, because I'm aware that possibly you were born in Sri Lanka and
Yeah.
you studied there, you worked there, but you also have a master's MBA from United States,
Yeah.
and presently you're working as head of HR in Dubai, the Middle
Yeah.
East.
Yeah.
So that makes a very interesting kind of a journey.
Yeah.
Possibly to begin with, maybe can you take us through that little graph? How this beautiful journey has
Mhm.
all started and how it has taken shape and where you are today. Some of the
Okay.
highlights.
Okay. It's really very interesting. Mm, like when I was waiting for my university entrance long time ago, that was way back in 1992. I had this chance experience of working with my father's friend, who was a politician, a very famous politician back in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
Controversial as well as very famous. This is something no one knows, right? I'm just revealing to you at this moment.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so for 2 years, I was working as his assistant before joining the uni, um, more like his private secretary. And that
Mhm.
gave me a wonderful exposure in organizing events, going and meeting people, traveling around the country and meeting a lot of politicians at even to the level of top leaders, cabinet ministers, prime ministers. It was such a wonderful experience. I never thought I will get into HR. My idea was something else.
Wow.
Okay. And then I started my uni at Colombo University, and uh, then I got this opportunity to work with Telstra Australia. They had operation back in Sri Lanka, so they was looking for a HR intern. So whilst I was studying, I got this opportunity, and then they said, "No, you continue with us. We will allow you to go to your university lectures and all of that." And university was also like walking distance from the Telstra office, and so there, I got into HR.
Mhm.
But I think that 2 years of working with this grand old controversial politician was my father's friend. I think that was the real orientation for
Okay.
years to come. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. That's a great and very dramatic start. I must say that very dramatic
Yes.
start to your career. Okay, but I'm sure I think it wasn't planned, right? I mean, you were not planning to join your dad's friend.
No, no, never, never. And in
It just
fact, at one,
happened.
it happened, and at one point, he had um, three sons, and then none of them was willing to get into politics. So this gentleman invited me to run for the local council, and definitely I
Hmm.
would have been the mayor of that council because I was so popular that time. And something told me don't get into politics.
Oh
the
my God.
learning that
Okay.
the learning that you got from politicians are great, but not politics. So I humbly told him, so thank you very much,
Okay.
and
So
he
you
was
you
like a
figured
father
out
figure to me.
you
I
figured
figured
out
out.
at that young age that maybe that's not my cup of tea. I mean, you figured that out
Exactly,
quite early.
quite early. I'm so surprised that I had that
Yeah.
insight, and also,
Right.
it has actually molded my life also. And I've never gone behind things. I've always seen the what do you call, not the material value. I always look
Sure.
for certain other qualities in life. So
Beautiful.
I was able to say no to that. Today I'm not in HR. I'm a very senior politician back in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So now that you mentioned that it was a conscious decision to say no,
Yeah,
maybe I'd just like to draw a couple of insights from that experience of yours. What
yeah.
was that you liked about those politicians and what they do, and what is
Yeah.
that you did not like about that
Okay.
whole political kind of space?
Okay, so I was able to meet with politicians of different parties, the government politicians and the opposing politicians. And what I figured out uh, is that, okay, these guys do a lot of great things for the people, no doubt about it. You can always say bad things about it, but at the same time they do a lot of things. Their entire life is sacrificed for the upliftment of people, but at the same time uh, it's for their own upliftment also, right? And the worst thing which I saw was like two guys who will try to kill each other inside the parliament chambers, right? So entire countries looking at them and they see, wow, my man is attacking the other one and the other one is responding, and out they come, they go out for a drink.
Yeah.
Whether you are in the government or the opposition, anything,
Mhm.
anyone can get done. So this, I thought, it's not the right way.
Okay.
I think this is
Okay.
the same thing which is happening all over the world, right?
Yeah,
So,
very true. Very true.
so,
Okay. Mm.
so yes, I saw their sacrifice, the kind of work that they were doing for the people, and for the upliftment of the society. But at the same time,
Right.
genuineness was quite sadly
That's
lacking.
that's the word. That's a word. That's a beautiful word. Genuineness,
Yeah.
being authentic about the whole
Yes.
intentions. I think
Intention.
maybe that's where you found the gap and you didn't want to go about
That
that.
was my
Yeah.
mismatch.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing, amazing. I think that's beautiful insight, right? We're
Yeah.
all searching for genuineness and authenticity in whoever that
Yes.
we encounter. Yeah.
Yes.
And the moment you find it, you actually get connected. Somewhere you get drawn to such people, right?
Exactly.
Otherwise, you keep yourself away from such people.
Yes, you say goodbye and then you move on.
That's it. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. Now, on the education part, which you said
Yeah.
you pursued while you were working,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, how did this US thing happen? I mean, you did it from Sri Lanka or you went to the United States? What
Um,
happened?
well, this I actually completed whilst I was in Sri Lanka, but
Mhm.
um, but then later on I was during that time I was attached to SHRM back in California,
Okay,
and my mother, who is still there, she's a US citizen. So I was able to travel to Harvard University, and I did some short programs there as well.
sure.
Two programs, on program on negotiations, which actually I think had helped me throughout in my career. And the
Right.
other one was dealing with difficult people and difficult situations, which I already had a prior experience.
Amazing.
Now I'm trying to
Amazing.
put some formulas into it,
Right.
because again, quickly go back to my life as a assistant to a politician. There would be many situations when, like, this gentleman will chase away someone who is coming to his office early in the morning, asking, "Sir, I want help, this and that," and I wait. I I accompany him to the gate, and then I console him and take down notes of his problem. And somehow, when the politician is cool and calm down, I'll put a paper, and actually, I will ensure that if that is a case that is to be raised in the parliament, I'll actually do a paper also. So, a lot
Okay.
of these things was formalized, or different formulas I found out while I was doing my study at Harvard.
Mm-hmm. That's
But, but,
interesting that
but
you
yeah,
first experienced and then you theorized the whole thing. And the
yeah,
theory came later, experiences
exactly.
came before.
Yeah, the other way around actually.
Interesting.
Generally nowadays, what happens is you study
Yeah.
reams of theory and then try to figure out how it can be applied.
Right. Right. Right.
But application has happened already.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's how the US thing happened because you
Yes,
were free to go to the United States
yes,
to spend time with your mom. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
wonderful, wonderful.
yeah,
Great. So the next very curious thing I've been waiting to ask you about this. When someone understands your background, then there
yeah.
is one place where you mentioned that you did a master's in Buddhism, right? And from working with a politician to doing
Mm,
Harvard courses and a master's in the United States, then
mm.
comes masters in Buddhism. And what really prompted you, or what inspired you to do that?
Actually, you'll be, I'll give another surprise to you. I have two master's degrees, one apart from my MBA, one in Buddhism and one in Christianity. Probably the only Sri Lankan business person to have dual masters in these two
Okay.
religions, right? Uh, it I don't know, like, because my mother was a Buddhist and convert. My wife was a Buddhist and convert. So back in Sri Lanka, we have a lot of these mixed marriages. So I had
Yes.
a deep respect for both religions, right? I myself is a Christian.
Okay.
So I always thought, like, a lot of people fight over their religion. A lot of people have very little understanding of their religion, and they think that they know ocean of understanding, and then try to be superior over the other. But at the same time, if you moment you start studying deeply into religions, any religion for that matter, you understand how much you need to be humble, because it all goes back to probably one root. Where we probably have been brothers and sisters some thousands of years
Mhm.
ago, right? And then we have ventured into our own paths, and now today we see a lot of differences between each other. But that's not the case. We probably would have started from one family. So uh, that that journey I'm still on. In fact, recently I registered myself to do my doctorate studies on
Okay.
servant leadership. So I will
Wonderful,
be.
wonderful, wonderful.
I'll
The
be.
previous insight that you mentioned, I think
Yeah,
that's really worth digesting. You said maybe thousands of years ago, maybe many, many years ago, we were all brothers and sisters, possibly coming from the same root, but we have
yeah,
divided ourselves in the name of religion, and that's a
yeah,
very narrow kind of perspective. What you
yeah,
actually mentioned, more you understand about religion, you
yeah.
actually start seeing that oneness in humanity. That's a
Exactly,
beautiful insight, what you mentioned.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No, I
so
wish many more people develop such kind of a wider perspective rather than trying to propagate, very narrow perspective of any particular religion. I think we should just promote more of humanity, I guess.
exactly, oneness and the unity, diversity, right?
Yes, 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 yes,
I
yes.
always say that, now, okay, what we try to do in most of the very extreme sort of religions is that everyone wants to be, you expect everyone to be like you, right?
Yeah.
And I always
Mm.
tell my friends, just imagine a day. when the entire world, all the people look like me, how boring it will be, right?
Yeah.
Wherever I go, I see myself, or
Mm.
everywhere. No, it is beauty. The beauty is in the diversity, right? You
Lovely statement. The
exactly,
beauty is
and
in diversity.
diversity, and I always believe that we are all pilgrims. We are on a
Yeah.
journey. Wherever we go, we give someone something, we take something from them. So it is this lifelong journey that makes us wholesome.
Super. I mean, this is very very deep perspective, Derek. I think I'm so happy that I'm listening to a person like you with such beautiful perspectives. I'm just enjoying this conversation.
Thank you.
Now, my serious thought is when someone is operating at that level, just as you said, we're all at a very deep level, all humanity. We should be humble. We should be very genuine. Those perspectives are very different. But on the side, you also are expanding your knowledge, continuously. You've done masters, you've done double masters. You said now Christianity as well as Buddhism. Now you're pursuing a PhD. It seems to be never saturating learning journey for you. What are you aspiring through all these studies and acquiring qualifications? I'm sure you're not working for qualification for sure.
No, no,
So
definitely
what
not.
else is the primary purpose of this learning for you?
Okay, not everyone, right? Some people feel that they're born with a duty for the society, and
Mm, mm,
from my small days, I felt that I have something to do much more than what others see. It
okay.
is not becoming a CHRO one day, or a entrepreneur, or a big businessman. It is much more than that. There's something that we all owe back to the humanity. So I'm trying to understand my journey, right, with all
Okay.
of this, and I guess that there are people like us all over the world. Sometimes their voice is suppressed, right? But there are a lot of goodness all around the world, and I think it's time that this goodness converge together, right? Otherwise, this world is going on a. I always remember those 007 movies where it self-destruct within 5 seconds. We actually switched on our self-destruction, the world.
Mm,
So
mm,
I think
mm.
we need some people, we need some refreshing thoughts to get people out of
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Understand the value
Okay.
of humanity.
I think that's another beautiful statement, that convergence of all the goodness in the world. It is there
Yeah,
in bits and pieces.
yeah,
Possibly when it all converges, it becomes stronger and it sends out a stronger message to the entire humanity. Amazing.
exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Now, having said that, of course, you did mention just now that aspiration is not never to become a CHRO or become somebody or whatever. But
yeah,
incidentally, you have become that, right? You are the head of HR
yeah,
for RSL Freight
yeah,
company in
yeah,
Dubai for last
yeah.
couple of years, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah. So how did this happen? How did this shift happen from Sri Lanka, the beautiful island nation, to
Yeah,
another beautiful nation
yeah,
like Dubai?
yeah.
So how did this happen?
Okay, again, if I quickly go back to my career, back in Sri Lanka, I was CHRO, vice president of a construction giant, and
Yeah.
also I had this uh, ability or the tendency to do multiple roles in several companies.
Okay.
So in this last company also, in addition to my HR role as a group head of HR, I was acting CEO of our engineering division, mechanical engineering division,
Okay.
which probably is the oldest mechanical engineering operation in Sri Lanka. So uh, I looked at HR much more than a typical HR guy would look at, right?
Mhm.
A wholesome understanding, like how my thoughts on the other matters, spirituality also. Like I always believe that HR guys can't be in their room. They need to be people who are sweating, walking around the length and breadth of the organization, understanding, feeling the pulse of the business, number one, feeling the pulse of the people, right? And someone who can combine both these together. So, however, if you everyone knows that 2022 we had a very bad period economically in Sri Lanka. Uh, Prior to
Yep.
that, we were all doing very well. We never want to leave our country and move around. In fact, I resisted so many invitations from my mother also to come to US and settle down. And then, so this 2020 situation forced us to look for opportunities elsewhere. Here I am, enjoying the current stay here.
Mm, No, so I think maybe some economic developments, those things possibly necessitated that your movement.
Yeah,
But I will like to sort of go back to the another beautiful perspective that you brought in, that HR should not be seen maybe in a very traditional, very narrow kind of perspective. According to you, you
yeah,
have taken a very different perspective towards HR. And you
yeah,
said the first important point is understand the business much more.
yeah,
So anything, I mean, it's amazing to listen to you that you played an interim CEO for one of the business divisions.
yeah,
I mean, that's really amazing to know about it.
yeah.
Without knowing a very deep domain knowledge, you can still be a kind of acting CEO there.
Yes. Um, Actually, you need to spend time and understand the domain knowledge, right?
Mm, mm,
You cannot, you can get into it, but for you to master it, you need to have that domain knowledge. Now, that was only once, but actually have been in that situation twice before. Uh,
okay.
in fact, to the point of leading one of the public listed companies in Sri Lanka. So, my point is this: uh, as a HR person, one thing is you are blessed, right? One thing is you are blessed, and I have my serious doubts whether our HR fraternity really understand this, right?
Mm, mm,
Why I'm
mm.
saying that we are blessed is that some power has given us this opportunity to serve people, right?
Okay.
And we can decide the fate of an individual for good or bad, right? So every decision that we take has a direct impact on the livelihood or the future of a person and their family, right? So we are blessed. So I always sometimes in even in conference I say, look guys, we all have a ministry in that sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that is one. So uh, the other thing is that as a HR person, you get a beautiful understanding of how each and every division works, right? But we sometimes shy away from getting a deep understanding, but it is there for us. It is open to us. So if a particular HR guy starts studying every function in the organization, that information is right there in front of him. And number two, not scared of numbers, not scared of
Okay.
numbers, right? And that you are willing to challenge your number crunching guys, right, at the boardroom. HR guys, I think, are the best leaders you can find, right? But unfortunately, we don't cross that barrier, right?
Mm,
So I'm
mm,
someone who was able to cross that barrier back in Sri Lanka. Even today, also, we are a freight forwarding company with 17 years. We actually started our operation back in India, which is
okay.
quite a big operation, and in Dubai we are now for 12 years. In mainly freight forwarding, we have our own container line, so RSL Freight, the roots are in India, and so in addition to HR, I get involved in the other operational
Okay.
activities and
Okay.
impart my experience to the organization.
And I'm still allowing my mind to sink in to those beautiful formula that you have given, how to elevate yourself as an HR person in terms of your thinking process. I think first thing you said is believe that you're sitting on a beautiful opportunity and you're blessed to
Yeah,
be in such a kind of a role. That is one. You need to believe that.
yeah,
Next one you mention is we need to keep our ears and eyes open to understand what is happening in every business function, because we have that access to wherever that we want to go, but
yeah,
we need to keep our ears and eyes open. That's it. The second one that you mentioned, and
yeah,
third one you mentioned is develop that comfort with data, the numbers, and all that. Don't get scared, because that's the language of business that you
yes,
will be able to
yeah,
converse with, right?
yeah.
So this is a beautiful formula that you actually given how to. In fact, I was about to ask you that. While you think HR is a very blessed and you're in a great position, but do you think many people feel that HR is getting such kind of respect?
Well, over the years, uh, from now my career is about 30 years. I should be a grandfather. Technically, I'm a grandfather. My eldest daughter gave birth to a lovely little girl last month.
Oh, oh,
Okay.
last month.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
I mean, is that your first child?
Grandchild. Yeah.
Okay, so you're a latest grandfather then. You're a very fresh grandfather.
Yes.
Congratulations.
New to the club, so to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
congratulations.
Yeah. So I have seen how the respect towards HR has grown over the years,
Mhm.
right? Where we were like a function which was coming under another department, mainly finance, right? So it was more like a admin department. And then we had this word HR coming into play, HR management, then HR development, and then HR guys growing on to become a different department altogether. And
Yeah.
then they finally having a place in the boardroom, right? But I still feel we have a very long way to go. We have a very long way to go because we are so comfortable with the perks and everything that comes along uh, um, as a HR person, right? We don't still, I feel, a lot of HR guys, majority HR guys, don't sweat, right? Don't challenge, right?
Okay.
Don't challenge yourself. Don't challenge the way things are happening in the business, right? Because if we do that, the moment we start doing that, we become such a great asset to the organization because the kind of heart we have with the knowledge that we accumulate, we become such a blessing to entire organization and the people.
Mm, mm. So you mean to say that businesses are evolving and organizations are in a position to accept the contribution of HR? Now it is the ball is in our court. We need to elevate ourselves and grab that kind of opportunity. Is that
Exactly.
what you're saying? We should not
Exactly.
be shying away.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because globally there's a huge respect that we have gained, right? And very soon it might go out, right?
Mm,
So we as HR leaders must work hard and ensure that our rightful place in the organization, in the boardroom, right,
okay.
wherever we go, right. So every time chairman when he wants to take a decision, he wants to call your HR guy, right,
Yeah.
and get his opinion, right. We should always be like that, that we are the one who is shaping the decision, right? Not
Sure.
not
Sure.
not bystanders or
Yeah.
spectators, or you learn from someone else that something like this is going to happen in the organization. No, you
Mm,
should be
mm,
at the critical war
yeah.
room when the
Yeah.
decisions are made.
Mm, mm. So it's finally up to our preparedness, our readiness to be in the fray and then take that whole responsibility. Yeah.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
excellent, excellent.
Yeah,
Now, having said this, I mean, you actually mentioned globally HR is gaining more ground.
yeah,
Now, more at a little on the ground view, you
yeah,
worked in Sri Lanka for a very, very long time, and now you've
yeah,
been seeing the
yeah,
scenario in the Middle East. Do
yeah.
you see the, any big difference in the HR maturity levels, Sri Lanka or Middle East? How do you really, do you have a comment on that?
Yes. See, if you compare Sri Lanka 2 years back, because right now it's like a um, fight for survival, right? I think now as a country we are settling down a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
but if you see Sri Lanka 2 years back, how we were maturing in terms of HR, right, as a society, uh, is and was quite different to MENA altogether, right? Here, the biggest problem is that the employment, so to say, after the recent changes is 2 years, and the chances of return some employee retaining back in the organization is becoming very challenging. In a recent study, they have figured out the lifespan of a employee or employment contract is about 1.7 years, which means that you find it extremely difficult to have profitable engagement plans, right? Because by the time you set forth with an engagement plan, that employee is gone to another organization. It's more on um, in terms of what best perks that I get, right? So you find it very difficult. So in that context, you see that here in Middle East, um, the value of hiring the resources, right, to
Yeah.
find right resources is becoming a huge challenge, and
Okay.
that is affecting a lot of our businesses. Even our organization, we have a huge requirement for sales, quality salespeople, right?
Okay.
You can find salespeople. So the resource requirement is becoming very huge in MENA. Then there are other things that is quite unique to this environment, because we have a lot of multinational companies who have set up their businesses here more than
Yeah.
local companies into freight. So along with that, you get a lot of different technologies, various new ideas, things that they were doing back in their home countries. So it's always a challenge how to, with the market situation here, how to infuse all this knowledge back to your workforce. So, so the,
Okay.
so it, in that sense, Middle East is quite unique, because uh, one main thing what I see is that the continuity of a particular employee
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
cannot be guaranteed. So your engagement plans, you have to do it in such a way that you keep that in mind. You know that by the time that you upscale,
Yeah.
retrain someone, uh, actually you are doing it for the other organization.
Mm-hmm. So, what did you find as the core reason for this poor retention? Is it the only compensation and benefits, the perks? Is that the prime reason why people switch in 1.7 years on an average?
Um, in that report, which we had a opportunity to study few months back, some people even change jobs for few hundred dirhams at a lower level. But
Okay. Okay.
by and large, because organizations are going through very fluctuating fortunes right now with the global scenario. Nothing can be predicted. Now, if you look at our freight forwarding industry, we never thought there'll be issues in Red Sea. It was smooth
Yeah.
sailing. Suddenly we have a situation where we have to now think in multiple ways how to send shipments across to Europe and North and South America, right?
Yeah.
So it's a tedious operation. So, and along with that, the prices go up. Sustainability of organizations becomes a question. So, um, I think a lot of global challenges uh,
Yeah. Are hitting the
making
businesses.
within the
Hitting the
businesses. So,
businesses.
so um, so employers also find it very difficult to maintain the same level of the benefits and the way they were looking after the employees. They find it extremely difficult to continue with that, and so that also forces most of the employees for look for better opportunities. And now I also see a lot of the work harder again going back to their home countries as well, because
I see. Okay.
because the challenges here, like, say for example, organization, the right size is 50 odd employees, right? Now what happens is, when you see the employees leaving, you hardly replace.
Mm.
So the
Okay.
remaining workflows, um, their work pressure goes up, Now we have a
Okay.
situation. Last week we had a terrible natural disaster. You know, the entire Dubai
Yes.
was
Yes.
flooded,
Yeah.
and if you Google, you can see a lot of organization was pushing the employees to come even when their apartments and the places they were staying was flooded. So literally people had no option. You know, actually they can't come, and so they were putting pressure, saying that, you know, if you don't come, we will cut your salaries, cut your leave, and all of that. So why is that there's a huge scarcity, even though we don't
Okay.
talk about it, right? So I think these are the reasons. You know.
It's such a fluid business situations. I mean, there are global challenges. There are, the oceans are in trouble,
Yeah.
natural calamities. I think everything is a little uncertain. I'm
Yeah.
sure that will make the HR role much more complex, right? I mean, you're surprised on a daily basis.
Yes, exactly. And also, another thing which I want to touch on is AI. With
Yeah.
all these things are happening,
Mm,
AI walked
mm,
into the scene. You know, now it
right.
is also complicating things. The
Right.
formulas much
Mm,
more. You know,
mm.
so that also is having a big impact on the workforce, right? Uh,
Is the Middle East market quite adaptive to these latest technologies?
It is. It is. There's a
Okay.
huge effort driven
Okay.
by the government itself,
Okay.
here in UAE as well as the rest of the Middle Eastern countries. There's a huge
Hmm.
drive towards AI-driven technologies.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that also is affecting positively as well as negatively, right? So some
Yeah.
repetitive tasks are at stake, right? But at the same time, there is a huge demand that is being developed for roles that requires AI knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is uh, happening both ways. Yeah.
Now, with government's emphasis as well as the organizations finding it beneficial to adopt the AI-based technologies, do you find such kind of a talent available in the market?
No,
People
there's
who are quite an expert in these AI and those kind of areas, the emerging technologies.
that's the challenge, right? That's the
Okay.
challenge.
Okay.
I think the technology is running fast, uh,
Mm,
much
mm,
fast, because we never thought AI would, you know, go like a rocket like this, right?
yeah.
So it's more like a catching up, right? So
Okay.
I think
Okay.
the bad thing that can happen is, like, if you find it difficult to catch up, you give up, right?
Yeah.
So the value of technology will actually lose. You know, like
Mm,
what
mm,
happened was long time back when the other disruptive technologies came, people who could grapple with it went along with it. Otherwise,
right.
others were left behind.
Right.
So it can happen to AI also, but at the same time, the thing is, for HR guy, the good news is there are things that AI cannot replace, right? The things that we were talking,
That's wonderful to know. I'm sure I think everyone will be very keen to listen to you. What are those areas where
right?
technology
Um,
cannot replace an HR guy?
yeah, the things that we discussed at the right at the beginning, you know, the
Right.
empathy towards people, right?
Okay.
Um, uh, these kind of more softer skills, right?
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
AI will find it very difficult to replace, right?
Mm, mm,
So it is nothing like a human being there,
yeah.
than having a computer to give you all right answers every time. And also the other worst thing that can happen is when you feed the AI, if you feed with a lot of wrong algorithms, right? The result can be so devastating,
Yeah.
right? So
True.
a human person with the right knowledge, right empathy can
Hmm.
actually will be the balancing, do a
Right.
balancing act, or the person who will be the equalizer, right? Because technology, whilst it's good, if it is, I mean, like maybe a week ago we were at a program, it showed how some people have given long algorithms and the AI will give you a wrong result. Looking at a map, AI will erase certain areas.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm,
so
mm.
can be very devastating also. So therefore, HR person has a very important role, irrespective of whether AI is going to play a major role in the future.
So for HR people to stay relevant, one must invest much more in those human skills, that human touch, the empathy part that you talked about, and
Yeah.
listening, caring, and
Yes.
those elements you're emphasizing quite a bit. The HR
Yes.
fraternity has to master those
Yeah.
skills much more.
And
Okay.
being genuine, like what we how we
Genuine,
started,
genuine,
right?
absolutely. I'm
And being,
so glad that all through our conversation you've been emphasizing that point, that we
yeah,
need to be authentic, we need to be genuine.
genuine,
Absolutely.
and being passionate on whatever you do,
Oh, wow.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
And as if today is the only day and today is the last day that you will have on earth. I
Hmm.
need to do this somehow, right? So that kind of commitment and passion you should have. So
So
that,
I think it's in a very evolving stage, looks like, because I think environment is changing, technology is changing. So HR has to just calm down and recalibrate. Where can I make a difference to the business and to the people? Not
yes,
the same way that I've been doing all these years, but maybe a slightly, recalibrate
yes,
my role and my contribution kind of thing. So I think that's the phase we are currently in.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah, excellent.
also, sometimes we are all holed up in a kind of a room, and we like those days we used to say think out of the box. But irrespective of that, what I'm saying is like we don't see solutions outside of our room,
Right, right.
outside of area where we are in. Now,
Mm.
how does this world functions? This world doesn't function on having HR guys and finance guys and engineers and all of that. There are a lot of elements that this world needs to function, right? We have completely forgotten about agriculture, right? We have completely forgotten about various other industries, right? Now these industries are diminishing, right?
Okay.
Agriculture is diminishing, right? So this is AI is like a wake up call for us, right? AI
Okay.
makes things repetitive tasks much faster. So now you have a whole lot of time to invest on various other elements in life, right? We have never thought of, who has thought of becoming a farmer, right? The
Yeah.
technology is so advanced, right? You can really enjoy your life, right? You every time you want to be a HR person or a finance person, right? When there's no supply of food for the entire world, right? So I think these technologies are giving us a lot of time for us to think of how we can contribute to the society, well-being of the planet in a much better way, right?
Sure. These very different perspectives that you're sharing, today. Do you think somewhere your study of religion, the Buddhism, the Christianity, all the studies that you have invested in, do you think they have bearing on your total? I mean, have they influenced your thinking process and your perspectives?
Probably, probably. I am
Okay.
someone who
Okay.
always wants to challenge me
Okay.
at the first place, right?
Mhm.
I always want to
Okay.
challenge my way of thinking, right? So maybe I would have been thinking in a different way some 10, 15 years back. So I always want to see how the world is moving and challenge how best we can be with all these
Just
changes that are happening around.
Just a related question on the challenging part that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Many leaders, maybe this is a larger leadership kind of question. It
right.
sounds good when I listen from somebody, you must challenge the status quo, you must try something else, you should not be stuck in the traditional kind of a mold, etc. But at the same time, some leaders that I also work with, they do carry a sense of fear of failure, to try out something, come out of the comfort zone, and all those. They agree conceptually that's a great idea, but to actually execute that idea, I have my own, some cobwebs in the mind.
Fears.
So how do you overcome those fear? I mean, you don't have any fear of failure.
Yeah, yeah. I can remember a friend of mine some years back telling me, long time ago, once you start driving, you must meet with an accident.
Okay.
It takes all your fear away, right?
Mm,
So I guess any leader, to become a great leader,
okay.
he has to fall. He has to have a great
Wow.
fall, right? Have a
Okay.
serious damage, right? Guys who will get up from those pieces and build their careers back, they are the
Mm.
great leaders. Not the guys who never had any problem, right?
So
So
perhaps they come out stronger.
they come
They
out
emerge
stronger.
stronger.
They
Yeah.
come out
Yeah.
stronger. So it is your
Wow.
inner evils, the fears that is holding you back.
So you should be ready to face failure, learn from that, and emerge stronger. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Did you follow this principle all through your career?
So I've had many falls.
Yeah.
I'm standing
And you
strong
came
today.
out, and you came out
Yes,
stronger.
yeah. Everyone knows in my circle, right?
Okay.
And I always
Okay.
say that, I need to be lifeless to my last cell. If at least
Okay.
one cell is beating, right, it has life in it, I'll come out. I'll stand strong.
Beautiful. Oh, that's a great example, great description of perpetual optimism. My God, I think that's a beautiful description. Even if one last cell is remaining, you will emerge once again.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. What a great spirit. What never give up kind of thing. Fantastic. Yeah. Now, just a related question about the leadership aspect. One is you trying out and you want to experiment and all of that. Do you spread a similar message to your team as well? I mean, are you open if people are experimenting and they also fall? I mean, what is your reaction as a leader?
Um, okay, so I say that you need to challenge, right? You need to challenge the status quo, right? And but in a positive way, right? Not
Okay.
in a negative way, right? And always you must contribute something, right? So when I say uh, it's not going the right direction, I must have a solution to that, right? So I'm someone who is very proactive, right? Whilst I'm challenging, I want the best out of the situation, so that is why I am challenging. So you
Okay.
become someone like that. And also in the whole process, something which I always say, even in my studies, I think probably my studies would have helped me to a great extent, is that become a humble human being, right?
Okay.
Uh, Not someone who boasts about yourself. This world is in dire need of servant leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, right? So this is something which in any organization, which we should do, right? As much as we challenge, we do it in a very humble way, right? So these are the things that, and this is something which I do on a
No,
very conscious
that's a
basis.
beautiful balance that you are recommending. That on one side you have that passion, you have that willingness to experiment and question certain things in a healthy way for a good purpose. But at
Yeah,
the same time, you don't do it out of arrogance, but to do it your own very humble way. You're not
yes,
looking down upon anyone, but you're only
no,
provoking them to raise up. Right? So I think
exactly,
that's a very nice balance. I
exactly,
can visualize a leader who does both of them. I am sure will be greatly respected.
exactly. This is like when you're climbing a mountain, you can see some people who are descending, right?
Yeah.
Or some people who are descending because they couldn't climb, right? So you if you try to laugh at them, you may be
Yeah.
the next person that will be descending.
Might fall. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
yeah. So I
Now,
think we
when you
need to be
talk about this kind of willingness to experiment, readiness to fall, and not too aggressive but more humble, all of this, just a curious question because you worked in more than one region. Uh, do you see that there is a cultural impact on this human behavior? I mean, there's cross-cultural kind of aspect. Maybe people from different cultures, when they come together, they demonstrate these skills differently.
very much, very much. It's a very
Yeah.
cultural thing because if you look at the Asian culture, which is now coming out of the self-imposed barriers, right, in a very stronger way. But if you
Mhm.
look back a few decades ago, compare that with a Western culture,
Yeah.
you can see that we were very laid back, right? Because we find it difficult culturally to challenge the status quo, right? You will not challenge your father, you will not challenge your community
True.
leader, right?
True.
And that
Yeah.
that could be seen as a great sin, right?
Yeah.
But you go back to Western cultures, challenging is the norm, you know.
Mm.
After once you become an adult, you won't stay at your parents' house. You move out.
Okay.
Others will have to
True.
pay, right?
Mm.
Now
Mm.
here we have a
Yeah.
situation in our cultures. Until your death, if your parents are alive, they look after you,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's very cultural. But I think now the
Okay.
Asians are
Things are
um,
changing.
things are changing dramatically.
Okay. 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 Very, very
Because I
interesting.
remember about a week back, we had a boot camp on our doctoral studies, and a gentleman who is Arab, he was saying that we have been taught to follow. You can see the
Right.
comparison. We have been taught
Yeah.
to follow, not to challenge, right? So it's very cultural,
True,
isn't it?
true, true. It's very cultural. Yeah. But maybe I think slowly but surely, I think maybe it's coming out and it's emerging as more of a global culture. It's not any one region specific, but maybe a
Yeah.
global work culture. Yeah, I think maybe emerging very
Yes.
shortly. Excellent. So, I mean, so much about the HR and the leadership, but now let me turn, before we end, I don't want to miss this particular aspect. I also read that you are a chess champion. Right? There's another dimension of you, a completely different dimension. There is a spirituality, there is a religious studies, and you're a great learner, great leader, great perspectives on HR. But here is another dimension. You were not just a normal, somebody who pursues as a hobby, but I think you seem to be a very serious player, right? I mean, you are president of chess federation, and you're also, I think, secretary general, right? I mean, of Asian Chess Federation. So
Yes.
you
Yes.
you were into a serious game. So how did that happen, and where did you pick that interest? How much you traveled in that?
Okay. Actually, it was a accidental thing during schooling days. You know, there was one guy who somehow picked up a chessboard from the college. Um,
Okay.
uh, yeah, one of the master in charge of sports room, and he knew few rules, and he came to our classroom, and then he taught us chess, and we found it very difficult to beat him. Every day he will find another new rule. So something was telling me that this guy is conning us. So I went and was looking for chess books, and those days there were hardly any chess books. But uh, on the side of our school, we had a uh, like about 10-15 bookstores, the only bookstores in Sri Lanka with old books.
Okay.
And I was able to pick up one book, Your First Move, right, by Pichar. And
Okay.
I learned all the rules and the basic strategies of playing a game. And I came back and started beating this guy. Right? That is how I started, and then I went on to become Noises champion, and finally ended up as an international rated player. Um,
Amazing.
I, I, I'm,
Amazing.
I, I'm not a competitive player anymore, but since there are a lot of other stuff happening around, but anytime I get an opportunity, I would love to go and play in a game. So in between, like Sri Lankan Chess Federation went through a difficult time, and
Okay.
then I stopped playing. I was only 27 years. Yeah, I was 27. I became I ran and okay, I have this political background, right? I know how
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
win an
Yeah.
election, okay, right? And I won the election for the presidency, and I
Okay.
was president
Okay.
of the Chess Federation for about 6 years. In between, the World Federation recognized my leadership qualities, and they got me into various commissions in the World Federation. And in 2002, I was one of the founder members of the Asian Chess Federation, and
Okay.
for my work, I was appointed as the Secretary General, for which I was holding that position till 2005. Enough of getting involved with chess administration, I went back to my corporate
Sure.
life. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. But do you pursue that game even now?
Yeah.
or you don't get much opportunity?
No, every day I play, right?
Oh,
I
every
play
day.
online. I
Oh,
like like
with the computer. Okay.
with
Yeah.
the computer, and different computers all over the world. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
every day in the night I
Amazing.
play a couple of games, and before I sleep, I still want to keep. I think that has helped me in the boardroom also. Thinking
Mm,
fast, thinking sharp, thinking different strategies in a very quick time. It has helped me a lot. In fact,
amazing. Amazing.
I'm
Yeah.
planning to start a program here for the organization also, and also I'm right now experimenting with a different idea where how the uh, chess thinking can be beneficial to management. Where I'm
Okay.
devising a very interesting program which will come out very soon.
Fantastic, fantastic. That sounds very exciting. And because I read about many games and how insights can be drawn about leadership and management and the people, teams, and all that. So many ways. Now, I
Yes.
think this is going to be one more beautiful, trendsetter.
Yeah.
If launch your teachings through chess, the game
Yeah.
of chess. That's
Game
going
of
to be a fantastic contribution from your side.
yeah. Yeah.
So, Derek, thank you so much for spending such lovely time. And I mean, it looks as if we ran through all the 30 years once again. I mean, just feels that way, where it all started, where it is, and how diverse your rich experiences have been. And I really cherished the deep perspectives that you shared in a very simple way, in a very, very simple, non complicated way you shared. I'm sure I think if anyone listens to this conversation, just spend a little few more minutes pondering over those insights, not just listening and leaving it, but just pay a few more minutes of attention. I'm sure I think the takeaways are going to be much deeper. Thank you so much, Derek, once
Thank you,
again.
Raj. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And I wish you all the very best for your research as well as the new chess based teaching game that you're going to be
Yes.
launching soon.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure. Bye
Have a good
bye.
day. God bless you.
Sure.
Bye.
You too. You too.